Welcome to The Nation. I'm Gerard Ratnam. As Malaysia grows its creative economy, initiatives like CEMI, the Concerts and Events in Malaysia Incentive, are seen as key to boosting the music scene and cultural sectors. With the industry evolving and artist welfare gaining more attention, today we explore the opportunities and challenges ahead. Joining me is SYED AHMAD. If you're a Malaysian, you probably know him as ULTIMET, a celebrated artist, policy maker, and advocate for Malaysia's creative community, to discuss how CEMI, that's how it's pronounced, CEMI, could shape the industry's future, strengthen Malaysia's cultural footprint, and we hope improve the well-being of our musicians or Malaysian musicians. YB, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to have you here. From rap music to where you are, it's been quite a journey. Let's start with that.
What would you like to know?
I mean, from rap music to getting into politics and being an MP now, and I mean, things have changed a lot for you, your worldview. How much has that changed?
It has changed quite a bit. If you know, to give a little bit of background, one of the first rap groups that I used to listen to used to be Public Enemy. So they always had a lot of socio-political commentary in the music, first of all. Secondly, when I was in the creative industry, I was also an entrepreneur inside it. So if you're an entrepreneur in any industry, you would want to keep an eye on how the economy is going, especially if you're in entertainment. You know, you are providing a service or product that is wants-based, it's not needs-based. So if the economy is not doing well, you know, am I going to buy some rice or am I going to buy some concert tickets? I'm most probably going to buy some rice for my family. You know, so from there, I know we know that a big part of the economy is influenced by the politics of a country. So that's how I became politically aware. You know, and afterwards, during COVID, is when you could see I became politically active through charity work and stuff like that during the.
Was it something you wanted to do?
It wasn't something I wanted to do, but it was something I considered. It was something that some fans commented in passing, way before COVID. And when I got an offer to join a political party, I sat down with it for about a month. You know, I went prospecting, for one of a better word, to several political parties, and then I decided, okay, let's become politically active and let's choose this particular political party as it's the one that's most aligned with what I want to achieve. Yeah.
Now, I think the thing about being where you are and where you are now is always staying rooted to the ground, and you've always been one who's been firmly rooted to the ground. Even when you were an artist, you didn't let that get to your head.
No.
Now, I mean, how are you going to balance that now, being a YB, and all of us saying within the civil service machinery, we're all going to be nice to you. How do you find that balance within yourself to know, this is what I want to do and this is how I'll make it stay?
Right. I've been there before. I've been in a situation where, as a musician, basically for about 60% of my career, my 20-year career, not a lot of people knew who I was. And not a lot of people gave me face, so to speak. You know, and then towards the last third of my career was when, commercially things really took off, and there was more recognition, there was more revenue, there's more artistic satisfaction and whatnot. So we know what it was like, right? And there was a time where it was transitioning between those two phases, where it got to my head a little bit, and I have my wife, and she goes, "Hey, this is getting to your head." So I actually have a good system of checks and balances. That, and of course, getting deeper into my spirituality, and I read, I study Stoicism and all this. So we know, I think I know, it might be my ego speaking, but I think I know to not let it get to my head.
Right.
Hopefully.
Right. So the reason I have you here is, one, because your love for music and your love for people in the industry, and with me, it's the same too. We saw a lot of our friends suffer during the great lockdown. And what I want to talk about is YB Fahmi's initiative, CEMI, or CEMI, and it's meant to talk about the Malaysia's current music landscape. Do you think it's a game changer? And maybe explain to us, or give us your approximation of what you think it is.
Right, okay. Essentially, it's a rebate program, right? If you are organizing concerts or live events, or any events that speak to a mass of people, you are able to get rebates if you follow the guidelines, right? And right now, there are rebates for international level events or international content, and for local content, right, is essentially the same, but there's some extra rebate for the local content. So I think that's great. I think it's going to help. There are certain stipulations. One of them is even if you do an international level content, international type of concert, let's say to speak, or international event, you need to have at least 30% of the staff, or the working staff, or the contract workers be local for you to qualify for CEMI, right? So it's designed to help the industry stay sustainable, grow the industry, and also facilitate some sort of knowledge or experience transfer when you do international kind of events. Right? If it's local kind of events, of course, everything is internal, meaning it's all Malaysians. The content is Malaysian. The behind the scenes stuff is all Malaysian. So you are eligible to CEMI as well.
Right. So when we look at CEMI, okay, so you say it's it will be of great help if we're looking at international concerts and how we find employability for people working within the industry in Malaysia. But when we look at when we talk to people in our industry, what are your friends saying? A lot of your music friends, you know, is this a new something fresh for the industry?
Yeah, they hope for it to be something fresh for the industry. Of course, whenever the government rolls out any policy, there will be skeptics and there will be naysayers, right? But I think for the most part, they are adopting a wait-and-see approach. Of course, I would say, you know, you want to have 4 out of 10 people who says let's wait and see. You will have about 3 people who say it's a waste of time, it's never going to bring any change, and you're going to have 3 people that agree that's all for it. This is great. It's going to help. It's going to boost the growth. It's going to help us recover post pandemic and stuff like that.
Right. So the reason why we're doing this today is to try to give out as much information as we can, or at least start this conversation about CEMI. But I think where I want to take you to is why I want you here today to talk about the biggest challenges musicians in Malaysia face. You know, and, we talk about financial security, long-term careers. You know, I've seen radio announcers, you know, come ask me for tada makan, can give me some. I've seen that happen. And it's always us, you know, our tribe that becomes victims of this, you know. And when the great lockdown came, you saw a lot of the boys do Lala move, work in the pasar, stuff like that. Where do we begin with challenges for our friends in the music industry? You know, what are the biggest challenges you think are out there right now?
Personally, I think this is my personal opinion. I think one of the skills that we do not equip our creatives and just our students, our rakyat going into the working world is actually financial literacy. I feel that I'm fortunate enough to come from a rap group where the DJ is an accountant. Like DJ Faz was an accountant, and he's like, bro, you need to read this book. You need to get into financial literacy, and that's why I learned, you know. But we don't equip them with that. And it's for a creative, doing paperwork, keeping track of your finances, and all this is boring. It's really boring.
But it's interesting you mentioned DJ Faz, because DJ Faz's father was also very good in making sure he was handling the business well.
Correct. Correct. So it needs a balance. You need to be, if you're in the creative industry, I always say it's 2 words. The phrase comes with 2 words. You need to master the creative, and you need to be very good, or pretty good at least, at the industry, or you need to be good in music and also the business part. So I think that is one thing. I am a huge advocate of introducing financial literacy in primary school, or maybe even secondary school perhaps. If not in secondary school, maybe in tertiary education, just have a module. We have a module for nationalism sometimes, right? You know, just basic stuff. Or, you know, last time we used to have, instead of agama, my non-Muslim friends had pendidikan moral. Maybe we should have one class that's just teaching people about financial literacy, just basic cash flow management, calculating compound interest, and, you know, and things like that. I think that is number 1, right, for creatives. Is that we have essentially they are gig workers, they are freelancers, right? And I've been in situations where 1 month my earnings was 50,000 ringgit, the next month it was 500 ringgit. You know, and I had to plan, you know, and save and live way beneath my means in order to have a more stable monthly income. I put myself on salary, you know, and we don't teach that. And nobody taught me that. I had to learn it myself. So I think one of the things that if we want our children who incline to be creatives, we should teach them things like this. You have to get you have to know a little bit about all this boring stuff. We know it's boring, right? You need to have at least some basic knowledge of this, because I know it doesn't make sense. Accounts for a creative person and accounts don't make sense. But to an accountant, being creative doesn't make sense. It doesn't. When you say creative accounting, it sounds,
But if you take a time like, say, the 70s and 80s and now, and if you ask musicians from the 70s and 80s, even if you speak to Ito from Blues Gang, he said, we lost hundreds of thousands in revenue because we really didn't know the plus and minuses of how we did accounting.
Yeah.
But today, I think, or maybe I'm generalizing here, that a lot of younger musicians are in the know. If I want to start mixing my own music, I need my own Mac, and I need to, sort of start saving money for that first. And it starts from something like that, accounting for it. Did I make money back from that stuff like that? But having said that, is that the only problem? The other problem would be safety net. So you see a lot of musicians, they've reached a point where they've played all the big stadiums, and then they've got no money for hospital, like safety nets for what I would think is national treasure. So where do we begin with that? So I've always thought that we must have a national registrar for, say, medical aid. So if you are part of this national treasure, like say ULTIMET, the musician, is national treasure. Him being a YB is a different thing, but he's given to our music industry. If anything happens to him, whether he's a YB or not, he needs to be taken care of at any hospital in Malaysia. Can we have something like that? Or is a system like that workable?
I think it's workable, but if you allow me to play devil's advocate, I have two questions. Number one, what's so special about creatives compared to people who work for the government, people who are in the private sector, or gig workers or freelancers? What's so special about them? Number one, right? So the solution would be to have a general safety net, right? As far as considering someone a national treasure, it's music, it's art, is the creative industry is very subjective, right? Somebody who might be an artist who might be a national treasure to me might not be a national treasure to you. So how are we going to this one? I'm let's say people can say, okay, let's say ULTIMET is a national treasure, and somebody who doesn't like hip hop music will go, there's nothing in his music that sparks me or moves me. So why are we considering him a national treasure? Now, I'm sure there are people now who would argue that Allahyarham Tan Sri P. Ramlee is not a national treasure. There are people who will say there's nothing in Datuk Siti Nurhaizah's catalogue that moves me, so I don't consider her a national treasure. So these are two questions that we need to address. So I think a safety net could be put in place by certain organizations or guilds, right? So it's separate, and you have a general social safety net for everyone. Like if you look at, I don't know how to say his name, Ki Hoi Kwan, is it? He was in Everything Everywhere All at Once, and he was in Indiana Jones when he was a child. The reason he took the Everything Everywhere All at Once job was so that his membership in the Screen Actors Guild was active, and he was covered by the blanket insurance of the guild. So they have this blanket insurance provided you keep up a certain amount of work over the years, over a period of time. So we can have that. Maybe we have one of the NGOs that we have, or we have, maybe for me, I'm a member of MECP, right? So why don't you take some of my royalties and just do for everyone, all the members, and we have a blanket insurance policy for all the members, provided they remain active. They write at least maybe, who knows, maybe one song every 3 years, a bare minimum, right? So I would advocate that way. So if anybody questions why is this guy, I don't like his music, but he is receiving this blanket insurance policy, or because he's a member of so and so creative industry organization, or the creative industry NGO, that would be a workable solution, in my opinion.
Right. So speaking of workable solutions, there's also different bodies that handle different things within Malaysia, and also if you look at it, and this is just my observation, sometimes they come across as cliques. So I don't like them because all 5 of them are board members, and I'll start something else here, and everyone's trying to get a tranche or some sort of some do it from the government all the time, and to no end the government's trying to help everyone. So how do we kind of sort this problem so everyone sees eye to eye? I know that's something that's wishful thinking for me.
It's very much wishful thinking.
Yeah. But it's always that you one bunch of musicians against the other bunch of musicians. I don't report to him because I'm not with this group, and this group is not with that group. But there needs to be, like you said, something like a blanket coverage of insurance, something like that. What else do you think is a good idea at this point?
Oh. I'm not sure because I think it's normal. You are dealing with a bunch of people who they are productive when they work off emotion.
Right.
Being an artist, I know there are times where I'm purely an emotional creature, but when I'm marketing my music, I have to be a rational creature, and just take emotions out of it. Is it going to make money or not? So being emotional creatures, these misunderstandings that lead to not talking and being more cliquish and setting up new organizations is always going to happen.
Right.
I think maybe you should spend some time. Maybe the government, before they give out any aid or grants and stuff like this, you should have an audit. Not just what is on paper, but the general sentiment of that particular governing body or that particular NGO. There are safeguards, but again, no system is perfect, I believe. And you have this auditing system, it can still be subject to subjective opinions and stuff.
Right. So it still can be subject to subjective opinion, which brings me to this next question. You do a lot of reading and you do a lot of research, and I know this. And when you look at systems around the world, okay, what would be a low-hanging fruit, someone we can follow? But I mean, a best practice for Malaysia in terms of making sure the health of the music industry is in check, at least at a decent level.
For me, the one that springs to mind is, I mentioned it earlier, is the Screen Actors Guild.
Right.
The Screen Actors Guild, it sets a minimum amount of payment. It sets there's a blanket policy. They really maybe when you say a guild, maybe Malaysians do not really understand what a guild means, but it's basically a union. Right? It sets prices and things like that. So you can see some big actors, famous actors, they act in smaller movies, and they go like, I only did it for the minimum amount. That minimum amount is set by the guild because they are a member of the guild. They are not allowed to take any payment lower than that.
Right.
They are not allowed because you are a member of the guild. If you do not want to follow the guild guidelines, you can, the door is over there, you go for it. Right. So I think one of the best, and again, because I mentioned Screen Actors Guild because I think right now with the musicians we have MACP, we have RPM, we have PPM. We should have something similar for our fans in the visual arts or the film industry and the TV industry. Right. They should have a guild.
Right. So this is a question given to me by a musician. It says, what steps should policymakers take to make sure that the arts are seen as a serious part of Malaysia's economic and social development? And this was by someone who plays pop music.
Right. I think number one, it should be, we already have a good framework to protect intellectual property, and we're never going to be perfect. I don't think there's any country that is perfect. So I think number one, it should be that better legislation and enforcement of legislation for intellectual property, number one. Number two, again, it goes back to having a guild or some sort of organization, that can enforce for the industry, like a ceiling, a floor price, a floor fee for everyone, and of course, again, it goes back to being a lot more generalized than the creative industry is education or awareness in financial literacy. These three is just off the top of my head. I think that we can all work on at different levels or different sectors of society or the creative industry. Right.
Yeah. Now you talk about financial literacy. I guess artists have or creatives have their work to do or cut out for them with regards to wanting to think or plot out a future for themselves. Now, when it comes to the public, you know, I mean, CEMI would literally mean nothing to those of us who are not in the music scene. But, you know, what can we do to have a stronger culture of support in this country? Because if you go to, say, let's say we call them Matsali countries, like, you know, you go to theaters, you go to small festivals, there are people supporting it. Yeah, you know, let's talk about support for a while. And you're down as an MP, you're down talking to people all the time. You know, I'm sure you talk to people about stuff like this. So, you know, when it comes to support as the public, what can we do?
It comes with a mindset shift, right? It comes with a mindset shift with respect to appreciating your culture, your arts, and of course, it comes to patronage, right? When you think about he's the arts patron, you think about a billionaire, right? But you can be someone who's not a millionaire, right? And still support the arts. It could be mini patronage, it could be micro patronage, it could be nano patronage. In the sense that, let's say I go to see a musical that I like. The musical is Bernama TV, the musical, let's say. And I found it to be very enjoyable, right? So I will go and tell my friends, like, look, hey, I saw, last week I saw Bernama TV, the musical. You know, would you be keen on watching it? I would like to see it again, but I don't have the time. So let me belanja you 2 tickets to go. You know, you should start with that, right? And then, of course, in the smaller scale, you know, when we started out, it used to be gigs, right? So if let's say Bernard was, you were performing and I'm your friend, I will try to get in for free. But I'm your friend. I should be paying full, in full. So it comes with a paradigm shift outside and inside the industry. Right. So there have been times where I work with composers that are like, bro, I really want to work with you. So instead of charging you so much, I'm going to give you a 20% discount. I'm like, forget it. I do not want the 20% discount. I want to pay you full price. You know, it starts with that. You know, somebody's got to start it. So I think there are some people in the industry who are starting it. There are some people in the public who are starting it. You know, like this thing I call micro patronage or nano patronage. And I think it needs to go on.
Right. And it's interesting you mentioned that, because for us folks in the media too, and with my days, I remember my days with radio, every time we interviewed an artist and the artist was having a gig or, you know, doing a show, got free tickets, I think that has to change.
It has to change.
Media or not, that has to change.
It has to change. It's arts and culture is, first of all, is subjective. Second of all, what you get out of it is intangible. Right, the satisfaction of hearing your favorite song. You know, it doesn't fill you up like a plate of rice. Right, so sometimes we take it for granted. You know, add to that, we have ground events that are sponsored. You know, certain TV networks, they do a carnival. It's basically a concert attached to a sales carnival, a concert and a pasar malam together. You know, and because it is sponsored, the entertainment is free. So we've kind of conditioned our audience to expect a lot of entertainment to be free. Now, here's the thing. If you are enjoying any entertainment for free, you're not getting a product for free. You are the product. Because whoever it is, is using your presence, your attention, and selling it to the advertisers or the sponsors. Right. You know, so we've gotten used to that, not minding being the product. That, you know, we like, I got a free ticket or not, or, you know, why? Let me just go to this concert. It's free. You know, but if it's your favorite artist or maybe your favorite song, you should, in theory, be paying a premium for it because it means that much more to you. You know, that's why sometimes if we look at language, when is a favorite song of yours, let's say, is my name is AHMAD and my favorite song is Bernama by Mr. Gerard. But when I hear Mr. Gerard's song, I will say, hey, it's my song. You know, we feel like we have ownership, we have a stake in that song. So why aren't we the ones to be the individuals who pay a premium to experience the song, experience that particular piece of art?
YB, thank you so much for being here. Very quickly, in a minute, your message to everyone about CEMI and, you know, I mean, just supporting the music industry in Malaysia.
All right. First of all, CEMI, I think it's a great initiative. I hope it's going to be spur more concerts and of course bring in additional revenue to the Malaysian economy from our neighbours. We know we spend going to our neighbours' countries for concerts and stuff. I hope it can be the other way around. And second of all, if you want to be a country that is developed, we need to have a healthy creative industry. It's contributing about 2% of our GDP right now, and for almost all the developed nations, the creative industry is contributing 6 to 10%. So let's go towards that. Of course, I know you like your international stars, but we should try and support our local stuff. We have some very, very talented filmmakers, novelists, and musicians. Please check them out.
As we say in Bahasa Melayu, support local.
Support local.
A big thank you to YB Syed Ahmad for sharing his valuable insights today. This has been The Nation on Bernama TV. Thank you very much for staying with us. Of course, we've got news updates coming up. I'm Gerard Ratnam signing off. Bye-bye. Take care.
Yeah.
Jambatan ini sepatutnya menghubungkan kita. Tapi sebab rasuah, ianya kekal begini.
Negara semakin maju, tapi disebabkan rasuah, kami terus ketinggalan.
Atlet kita boleh jadi jago dunia sebenarnya. Tapi rasuah merosakkannya.
Rasuah seperti bara. Jika dibiarkan, ia akan terus merebak. Jadi kita harus membenterasnya sehingga ke akar umbi.
Saya nak melihat negara Malaysia menjadi kebanggaan anak cucu kita tanpa rasuah.
Tekad kita harus tegas dalam isu penyalahgunaan kuasa dan rasuah. Rasuah meruntuhkan negara.
Alhamdulillah